All right, everybody, welcome to another race analysis episode. This time we're finishing up the Omnium, the 3-race Omnium that we were working on throughout this week with a time trial, a road race, and a Criterium. You can see those previous episodes. If you haven't seen them, they'll pop up now on the screen, so you can check those out down in the description. But this is the final round, and it's the Criterium. And there goes Brandon Need.
Yeah, the other product manager here at TrainerRoad.
So... typically not a crit racer?
Yeah, he's soaking wet, 135 pounds, but he knew that the way for him to race this race was to attack from the gun, get away, and kind of have a race of attrition.
Yeah, so he was ahead of me in points, but he wasn't planning on winning this Omnium. So unless this worked out, right?
Yeah.
So we kind of sat back and we weren't doing a whole lot of like hard chasing. We were just kind of trying to keep it close, so to speak. Because, once again, it's an Omnium. So it's not a stage race. It's just a multi-race where you get points for each one, and then the points end up deciding the winner at the end of those 3 races.
Yeah, and the points separating you guys weren't very much, but for 3rd and 4th, you had a nice buffer on everybody, right?
Yep. There was really one rider we had to worry about. The other one, something catastrophic would have had to have happened to us in order for that to... Yeah. So, of course, we didn't want that to happen either, but really there was one rider, and we were actually marking him in the previous race as well. He's in a white kit. His name is Mike Taylor, super savvy rider.
Yep.
Knows what he's doing. So we'll see. This is a great example of how to race for an overall in a Criterium final round of an Omnium or stage race super common.
Yep, it happens. At all those local race series. This is what you want to do at the end.
Mm-hmm. So I'm sitting kind of up front. You can see from my camera now, and I'm just cruising, and I'm waiting to try to see who's going to animate this thing. And Pete, you're kind of doing the same.
Yeah, and kind of at the beginning of these races are always people are really excitable, and so you just want to let them get some energy out. It's like, yeah, take the first 5 minutes, and nothing really happens. I can think of a couple times where the first move actually wins, but we want Brandon to have a shot, and we want other people to get tired out. So
and there's one other rider that is in the overall, and he's with Brandon right now, but he's a pretty long shot. Like, a lot of things would have to happen for him to win. So we're not just going to let that move entirely go, but at the same time, we're also not eager to chase it down.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this before, that once you get about 30 seconds on this course, it's really hard to bring back, but if you let someone sit at 15 or 20 seconds, so you'll see John and I just work our way through to make sure that the time gap doesn't skyrocket, right, to make things a little more doable for us.
Just keeping it within touch. And I fell back there to kind of take stock and see where all the main players were in the field. Looked behind me and saw that I had some of the main guys behind me, and now Pete, you're dropping back, and there's the marked rider from your screen, Mike Taylor.
Yep, and that's kind of who I was playing off of today, right? The whole goal was to keep anybody who could beat you in check, and just make your race easier if I could.
Thanks, Pete.
Yeah, no problem.
So let's fast forward a bit, maybe the first move where we see Mike actually kind of do something and us launch after that.
Let's do it.
All right, we're just about to see the first move go from the marked rider, Mike Taylor. I swing it over into the gutter to try to get people to come around after coming around that truck.
And we still have 2 riders off the front, so we're trying to follow wheels up to that move if we can.
Yeah, exactly. If they bring us up there, neat.
Yeah, all the better.
We don't want to be the ones. And there goes Mike Taylor. So you see him go, and some people sit up, so you're forced to go around. And then I come in behind you, but already the pace isn't too hard, at least in my spot. And kind of in your draft, kind of hoping that this guy pulls in front of me and shields me from the wind.
Yeah, and it's Mike's. I think he's just keeping the gap close again. It's you don't want to lose the race at the beginning, and a little bit of extra effort here. And who knows if he caught everybody off guard and made it across, like, it's all the better for him. But we were paying attention, and and as you get to this front straight, I'm pretty sure he realizes that everybody's on him.
Yeah. So he eases up, and you can see that, and the power drops pretty quickly there. And we're actually pretty close now because of this move that he did. It really made us catch up a lot of ground.
Yeah, it probably shut down 10 seconds in 15 seconds worth of racing. And you can see the 2 riders up on my camera and John's camera that they're just about to make round that corner. And so that's close enough that now people think that's not staying away anymore.
And that's really all you want in this sort of scenario. For us, we don't want to chase Brandon down directly. We just want to follow those moves. but it's nice when people make those sort of surgy, hard pulls. One thing I think a lot of the time riders don't think of is the fact that every one of those pulls that a person's doing, it's cutting into that gap, or at least keeping it closer to the riders in front of you.
And the people who are motivated will come through and kind of carry that momentum. And
you can see Jose did that very thing, really fast sprinter.
Exactly. And then, we're about to catch them, so you have to counterattack. It's the rules.
It's the rules. That's what you do.
So I go for it. And again, the idea is if I can soak up any points that the other guys that are close to John and Brandon, then that's what I'm there to do. But of course, everybody's still ready to go. It's only 7 minutes into the race, but it's been pretty hard. I would say kind of from the gun, this race was hard.
And you can see what I did in that one. Initially, I had to chase down pretty hard, but I let a lot of people fill in front of me to try to smooth out that hard pull that you were doing. So that way, it wouldn't completely cook me.
Oh, man, it makes such a difference. If you let 1 or 2 people slide in most of the time, man, it's like taking 20 or 30% off your effort.
And it's funny because a lot of the time we'll do that when it comes to racing for an overall because we're trying to be conservative.
Yeah.
But in this case, definitely that's the case here, but it should happen in every race. You should always be racing that efficiently.
Always try to get people to get in.
So let's rewind just really quickly on what happened there. So we're coming out of this turn, and the reason that I wanted to rewind this is because this shows how marked of a man you are, Pete. This is kind of interesting. So you fold over to the left, which nobody ever goes over to the left there usually.
Yeah, it's kind of out of the way.
And you're also exposing yourself to wind. But that's like a signal like I'm sitting up.
Yeah.
But then I see that I'm like, this is perfect for Pete to gas it, and then I go, but then you also go, and the field still stays on your wheel, and I'm the guy that's in the lead. And it kind of works out. So then I just roll back in, and we've got ourselves a small break.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where you do kind of you sit up just for 5 seconds to make sure everybody get them off the gas, and then if nobody's paying attention, it doesn't hurt to try again for 5 or 10 seconds and see what happens.
It's the double attack.
The double attack, and look, it shakes out 10 seconds in between us and the trailers. So this is another time where it works pretty well.
Yeah, it's a good move, and it ends up spreading things out and making other people chase. At this point, I'm really happy because I know that we have some fast riders that aren't in the GC battle with us.
Yep.
So I'm ready to just sit on their wheels, but you can see coming through here, I'm still doing I'm doing a decently hard pull to try to keep the pace up. But there we go. Mike Taylor was the one that ended up bringing everything back, and I saw that, and I thought, fantastic.
That's what we're here to do.
We tired out the rider that we're marking, right? So, really interesting point. Let's fast forward a little bit more.
So we've been keeping that group up in front of us just close enough so that we don't have to worry about him. And luckily they called a preem lap on the last one, so that riles everybody up, including Brandon and you.
There we go.
But as we're catching that group, it's kind of a good and bad situation. Catching the group when they're about to sprint for a preem and we're excited to sprint for a preem. It's gonna light some fireworks, right?
And some other things that I'm thinking of too are the point situation. Some of the riders that are up the road, if they get good preem points, they still aren't going to be. They're probably not going to beat us in the overall, but it puts them closer to being in the running.
Exactly.
So we're kind of nervous about that.
Yeah, we definitely want to soak up. I think one of my goals was to soak up some sprint points as long as I could, and so we're rounding the corner, and this is kind of where some people can hit it here, and it's just a lot.
And there we go. Nick just hammering, and he ends up putting, you can see you're doing 1200 watts, and that's a really hard move. And I let that go, and I'm just focusing on Mike Taylor.
Yep.
That's the only thing I'm focusing on here, because I want to make sure that that I'm marking him. Even if I come second to him in all the preems, it's fine. I just don't want to let a big gap open up.
Exactly, and I think when we were doing the math, as long as you were right behind anybody who was a threat to you, you were going to be just fine. So,
and I pipped him at the line for the points, just in case they're ready.
But yeah, that sprint really that always knocks everybody off a little bit. And the guys who are actually sprinting, like we're up 20 seconds already. You know? So, but that's where people realize that I'm up the road and this guy Nick is up the road, and that's more dangerous than most people want to let go.
And because we have positioned ourselves in such a way so that you were up the road, I also wasn't too worried about it. A lot of other people attacked and tried to go with, and then I just followed Mike Taylor's wheel once again because he wanted to do the same thing. So rather than me getting carried away with preem points and everything else, I made sure I knew what the point situation was. Then I knew that all I had to do was just mark this rider, which is a key thing, and sometimes it's kind of hard to keep track of, but it's important.
Yeah, and that's a good one to know. Just make a hard and fast rule, and then follow that. Don't try to calculate points on the fly. It never works out.
Yeah, we're not good at that.
Going 30 miles an hour.
No, wait,
that's 16 points. Oh no.
So let's fast forward to another section here. Well, actually, you can see Jose. He's another rider with the orange helmet, really fast sprinter, who's close in the points, but not close enough to win as long as I stay on his wheel.
Yeah.
So he's definitely somebody that I kind of have marked, and you can see right there he did kind of a hard move, and I let other people fill in once again rather than just latching onto his wheel, trying to smooth out that move. And right here, everything kind of slowed down, and I was like, ooh, this would be a really good time to attack, but I also don't really want to attack because we have Mike Taylor kind of half pulling on the front. It's kind of one of those tricky situations where it's halfway in between. So
yeah, and it's really up to you to follow, right? Like as the yellow jersey, all you have to do is follow wheels and you win. Like that's a great scenario to be in.
Perfect. And at this point, I'm thinking if I have a teammate, it'd be great if they attacked. Like this would be the perfect time to attack, right? And you'll see coming up very soon, Brandon. There he goes, shooting off like a rocket in the rear view, and you'll see him come around. I'm like, thank you.
Yeah,
that's exactly how it should be.
That's what you want.
It slowed down, and he went. And then look, Mike Taylor pulls because he knows that he can't let Brandon go.
Yep, that's another worrisome rider for those guys. They can't let him go up the road, or they're guaranteed to lose. So again, the two guys you're worried about are doing all the work.
And at this point, I have Mike Taylor and Jose right in front of me. Perfect. I don't have to worry about anybody else. I did some hard efforts to hold onto their wheels here, but I knew it was going to be worth it. And I was interested to see how far they were going to chase Brandon, how hard they were going to do it. And I also didn't know how long Brandon would last because he did a really hard first 6 minutes of this race.
Yes, he did.
So you'll see it right here. Mike Taylor's already easing up. So I'm like, all right, this is good. I can just sit here. But if we could attack right now, I bet Mike is really tired because he's been doing some moves. And you'll see Jose does that very thing. And
real sprint.
And this is really, I mean, I went up to 1100 watts, right? Just to match and hold on. Really hard dig. And instantly I saw Mike Taylor actually exhale when he went.
Yes.
And I was like, this is when you go.
Yeah.
I saw that cue of I do not want to be here. And I just went and we went around Brandon. And that's the front of the race. We can see you guys. And I actually told Jose here, I said, go past them. Do not slow down.
That's a great, that saved you guys more or less, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and in my group, we all kind of went, oh no, and then everybody sat up. But
you were hoping that somebody was going to pull?
Yeah, I was hoping someone else would get us across, but I knew that if I could help you out for a little while and even just inflate that gap for the first 5 or 10 minutes, I mean, that's a big deal. So trying to make it across, this wasn't that fun.
This is absolutely my plan too. I thought, let's not go too hard. I didn't want to say it yet to Jose, but I was like, let's not go too hard. Let's let Pete catch up because I thought that you were on our wheel at first.
Yeah. So no, this was more or less the race now.
This is it. So an interesting part about this course, and we talked about this before, but it's very open to wind coming off the airport on our left, and it is extremely windy around the turn we just did, and kind of there is no shelter. Like we were trying to echelon every time, but it just didn't really work.
It swirls so much that
I don't know where the wind was coming from, besides maybe just down or something.
It doesn't work. The physics aren't there on that one.
So really windy, and then we had a really strong head crosswind through this section. And then, strangely, the wind would change at the end of this turn, and it kind of hit you in the face again.
Yep.
And then you'd round the turn, you'd have a tailwind around this next turn coming up, and then kind of a weird crosswind thing down the next.
Yeah, there's always a cross headwind on this course.
Yeah.
No matter where you are.
Exactly. And we actually are going to be doing another video on this breakaway that we had, because you can see that we have a lot of race left. Yep. So we're going to be doing an in-depth video on this breakaway and kind of the do's and don'ts of a breakaway, so then you can check that out. And if it's published by this time, you'll be able to click on it up in the top of the screen right now. So you can check it out there. But Pete, should we, I guess long story short, we end up pulling out a gap.
Yep.
One of the things I was focused on, I was like, just keep it above 26 miles an hour if possible.
And it's a pretty safe way to think about a course. The wind doesn't change too much. And in any course, you know that how fast the pack has been going for the last 20 minutes. And if you go that speed, you'll hold your gap. So you don't have to go faster than the group behind you, but factor in the 10 or 20 seconds you have, and then you just have to hold it, right?
Yeah, and I knew that they were slowing down every lap a ton in the headwind section around this next turn coming up.
It's really hard right there.
So I figured I'm just going to try to keep the pace up there, and if we do that and then maintain everywhere else, we'll end up just extending lap by lap. So let's fast forward to, I guess, the point at which you come off and the race becomes decided, more or less.
Let's do it.
So we've been in the breakaway for, like 15 minutes now, maybe?
Yeah.
A long time, and it's been really hard. And Pete, what was happening right now?
We were extending our lead, right? I think we were up to 30 or 40 seconds by this point, which was kind of what we held after that. And I got tired.
It was really hard. And for more information on why it was so particularly hard on you, check out, like I said, that video that we do on the details of the breakaway. So you can check that out.
But then it was just mono a mono, and I knew that if you sat on his wheel, all you had to do was finish with him, and you got it, right?
And I was actually speaking to Jose at this point. I was like, Jose, cash preems are yours, points preems are yours, finish line's yours. Let's just work together.
Yep.
And he was very okay with that too.
I'm sure.
It worked out best for everybody. And that's basically it. We'll put up the full race so you can watch it, but there's no point in showing the finish. I do a good hard lap for Jose at the end and then tell him go get him because he's a heck of a sprinter.
Yeah.
And that was it. So we ended up getting the Omnium.
Yeah, nice job.
Racing with smarts and teamwork. Thank you, Pete.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. If you want to find out more about this race, everything else, look down in the description below. You'll be able to find links for the ride files, everything else. If you want to see the full race, you can click on that at the end of this video or down in the description. And if you want to see the analysis of the breakaway, you can do that too down in the description and at the end of this video. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Pete.
And if you like this video, you should subscribe to our channel because there's a lot more where that came from. And you can give it a thumbs up.
Yeah, if there's something you didn't like, give it a thumbs down. And if you would have done something differently, let us know in the comments below.
Absolutely. And if you want to become a faster cyclist, you should head over to TrainerRoad.com. It works. That's how Pete's fast.
Yeah, 100%.